Hi everyone, and welcome back to my booktube channel, Lisa in Bookland. I mentioned in my last video that I read Villette by Charlotte Brontë in April and I really enjoyed it, and I actually, when I thought back, I hadn't read as much Victorian literature in the last year or two than I would have in the year before that. That wasn't necessarily a bad thing, like I'd been reading a lot of like 20th century classics or like historical fiction, which I really got into in the last few years. But this book did make me realise how much I did like Victorian literature and that I should get back to balancing a little bit more of it. So to remedy this, I'm going to give myself a little project to read at least one Victorian book a month, probably more in the likes of October for the rest of 2021 at least. So I've a good spread of authors picked out here. I've kind of have a book like assigned per month, but that's obviously a little bit flexible if I feel like reading a book a different month or even a different book depending on what comes up. But yeah, there's no particular rhyme or reason to the way I've put them, just kind of alternated between like longer books and shorter books for variety's sake. And completely by accident, after I finished the list, I found that they alternated between male and female authors as well, which was kind of just a nice coincidence. So in June, I'm hoping to start off with a bang and read Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, which is a very long book. It was published in 1857. The reason I'm choosing to read this in June is because I actually received it last June from my parents for my birthday. At the time I did read about half of it and I was really enjoying it, but it was just, I think, the wrong book for the wrong time. It was just too long. Just sometimes you just aren't in the mood for long books, and last June was one of those times. Sometimes I don't always get on with Dickens, but I was really enjoying this one. So it's a book about this character called Amy Dorrit, who is called Little Dorrit because she's so small in stature, even though she's a young woman in this book. The unusual thing about Amy is that she lives in the Marshalsea debtors prison. Her father is a prisoner there, but Amy can actually go out during the day out of the prison to work to support him. The Victorian prison system was a lot different than prisons are now. Obviously it's a very unusual situation to read about. There was kind of a nice love story to it. I liked Amy as a character, so yeah, no, I'll be looking forward to getting this one. Hopefully it'll work better for me this time. So the book I'm hoping to read in July then is one that I've heard a lot about from Katie at Books and Things, and that's Olive by Dinah, Mulock, Craik. It was published in 1850. I have read previously one book by this author and I really enjoyed it, and that was John Halifax Gentleman, which I have in this really nice edition. I really enjoyed this book when I read it. I found the author's writing style like really easy to read, and it was kind of about an unusual friendship between two boys, and I believe Olive has some of the same themes in that the main character of Olive is a girl who's born with scoliosis. A lot of people tell her she's like barred from the usual route in life of marriage, and she has to kind of carve out her own life for herself. So yeah, I'll be really looking forward to that one. I haven't ever seen a physical copy for sale anywhere, but I'll probably read it on ebook or maybe see if I can order it into my library. So in August I'm hoping to read Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. I've never read anything from this author before, and I believe it is kind of his best well-known book. I don't have a physical copy yet, but I've asked for it for my birthday. I always ask for a classic book for my birthday because you then get the book that you want, but also you don't know what edition you're going to get it in because there's so many possibilities with classics. They're quite easy for my mum to find as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to receiving that one. Vanity Fair was published in 1848. It's been on my radar the past few years, especially because it was written in the Victorian period, but it's set during the Napoleonic Wars, so it's kind of historical fiction of a sort. I don't really know a huge lot more about it. I know the main character is called Becky Sharp, and I think it's kind of a bit of a satire on like Georgian society, which was a bit ridiculous. So the book I'm hoping to get to in September is Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. It's also published in 1848. I've only read two of Elizabeth Gaskell's books before, North and South and Wives and Daughters, but North and South is one of my favourite books of all time. I absolutely love it, and I liked Wives and Daughters as well. I'm hoping I'll like Mary Barton. I understand it shares some of the same themes as North and South. It's set in like Manchester. It deals with the conditions of the working class and factories and that, so hopefully Elizabeth Gaskell will continue to work her magic for me. So October is obviously Victober, which will be very exciting. It'll be my first Victober participating in officially as a booktuber, and hopefully I'll read like more than one Victorian book that month. But the one book I am kind of setting out my stall to read now, regardless of any prompts or anything, is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Tess of the D'Urbervilles was published quite late in the Victorian era in 1891. I have this lovely old 1931 edition on my shelves for a good few years, and I've not read it, and you know, the nice edition might be part of it. You know, I wouldn't bring this in my bag with me or anywhere, so yeah, it'll be nice to finally get to it. I've really liked the Thomas Hardy I've read before. I've read The Mayor of Casterbridge, and Far from the Magic Crowd again is one of my all-time favourites. I love this book. I understand Tess of the D'Urbervilles is quite a different book than Far from the Magic Crowd, and it's a lot more tragic. I don't really know what is so tragic about it, but I understand the main character Tess has a very hard life, so I'll be looking forward to reading what is such a well-known book in the English literature canon, I suppose. Then in November I want to read the last Brontë book that I haven't read, and that's The Professor by Charlotte Brontë. I suppose it's a bit fitting because this project was prompted by my reread of Villette. Professor was published in 1857, and I believe it shares a lot of the same themes as Villette in that the main character, who unusually for the Brontës it looks like the main character is a man, but he is teaching in a school in Brussels like Lucy was in Villette. I think it was an early novel of Charlotte's, but it was published posthumously, so yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to say that I've read all of the Brontë novels, just for the sake of completion, I suppose. But I have to admit I really need to reread Shirley as well, because that's been a while since I read that and I can't remember much about it. But yeah, potentially one for maybe early next year maybe, or even this year if I can fit it in. So hard to believe then, but the last month of the year is December. I did want to get like one Irish Victorian book in here. Ireland was part of the UK during the Victorian era. So I had a look. There's not much Irish Victorian literature that's very well known, apart from like obviously Oscar Wilde and Bram Stoker. So I picked a book called The Real Charlotte, which is published in 1894 and co-written by two Irish women, Edith Somerville and Violet Florence Martin. And that's just interesting in itself. They didn't even live in the same county, so I'd imagine before or after I read that I might do a little bit of research on the authors and how that worked, I suppose, if that information is known. From what I've seen, a lot of this book is actually set in Connemara, which is nice. That's the same county that I live in, so that'll be some nice local interest. So apart from that, I suppose the theme with this list, I don't really know anything about it, but yeah, hopefully it'll be a nice way to finish off the year. So as I said, I'd like to read more. I've already mentioned that I'd love to reread Jane Eyre, a book that I've read I think probably twice but not for a few years, and I would like to compare it to Villette. I usually reread North and South at least once a year because I absolutely love it. I've a lot of like Sherlock Holmes stories that I haven't read, like I'm halfway through the Palliser series, so I'd like to finish off that. Sure, the classics aren't going anywhere, I'll get to them at some stage. So that's my tentative reading plans for Victorian literature for the rest of 2021. Let me know if you've read any of these books, whether you're reading any Victorian literature at the moment or whether you're saving them all for Victober. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday for my next video.